read a letter to all of you from the Hopi. This is a letter that was introduced to the human race. There is a river flowing fast. It is so swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. The elders say, know that the river has a destination. We must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river. And I say, see who is in there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment we do, our spiritual growth comes to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves together. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones who we were waiting for. Now, what gives me the right to be up here in front of this room full of people is that I've got the guts to do it. Well, actually, I came up with a formula that converts the Gregorian calendar to the Mayan calendar. And I did all this research with the Mayan elders and shaman to make sure that everything on this is accurate as per the Quiché Maya, Yucatec Maya of Central America. So this is validated by them. And this is a tool to help you keep track of the Mayan calendar day by day by day for as long as the Mayan calendar runs. This is a perpetual calendar. Now, this piece of paper will become possibly more important as we go on with the presentation. Okay? Some time ago, about a year and a half ago, I was fortunate enough to make the introductions or the meeting with Dr. Καρλ Τζοχάν Κάλεμαν. He's a biochemical engineer from Sweden, and he started studying the Mayan calendar in a clinical manner, not as a general study like archaeologists, but as a clinical science. And he came up with some astounding scientific facts. My research and his research are actually this talk we're doing tonight is the product of those two studies put together. For more information, for more detailed information on what we go over tonight, we have many books back there available for you to buy and read all the detail. Actually, we're going to be doing a 3-hour lecture in 1 hour and 15 minutes. There aren't any seat belts on those seats, so just hang on. Okay, basically tonight what we're going to be talking about is consciousness and calendars, and what those two things have to do with one another. There is a profound connection between consciousness and calendars. Now, we're going to have a definition for consciousness. We're in Sedona, where there's a lot of people that are looking into or studying consciousness. Some may have different definitions than another, so we're going to set one definition for tonight, and that is that consciousness is the awareness of being aware. There. Whenever you notice yourself noticing something, you're being conscious of your experience. Places like Sedona are very beautiful, so often you'll notice yourself stepping back and going, wow, I'm really looking at this. which is a fairly simple explanation on why Sedona is a very conscious place. It's beautiful. And you notice yourself being conscious here more than other places. Then we're going to be talking about, does that agree? Awareness of being aware is consciousness? Okay. Next is calendars. Calendars. What is a calendar? A calendar is the absolute center of any civilization's consciousness. Absolutely everything that happens in a civilization happens in relation to its calendar. All schedules, due dates, celebrations, your birthday, all of it happens on the calendar. Everything is referenced to your calendar, so it is the absolute center of a civilization. Does that make sense? Yes. In fact, what this is even more basically is a society's agreement of what time is it. It's what we all share. Different kinds of lifestyles, different businesses, different names and numbers, everything, but we share what? The concept of what time it is. You see, there's a funny thing about consciousness. Consciousness always has a location. It has, by consideration, two different orientations: time and place. This is always, always true. It's working right now. Some time ago, you had the consideration or an agreement to come to this talk. And since then, you've been handling circumstances and other considerations that have come. But to where you came to this orientation point, this agreement of time and place. And so you're here. Welcome. This is how our lives go. Time and place, agreements of where you're going to be. And it's all by consideration. So what you're doing is you're establishing a place from which to view the universe. That's a little tiny infinitesimal speck that views or experiences the universe. This is commonly called your viewpoint. And your viewpoint is sacred. You're the only one that can have your viewpoint. That's because you built that sucker by every experience and consideration you can remember. And some you don't want to remember. You built it yourself. Now, nothing that we're saying tonight is aimed at changing your viewpoint. That's your job. We're just going to feed your viewpoint. And you do with it what you will from there, okay? Good deal. There's one very important law in the universe that I want to just explain right away. And that is, what you pay attention to, you become conscious of. And it doesn't matter whether it's how much toothpaste you're putting on your tube or how to become an electrical engineer. What you pay attention to is what you end up being conscious of. Like, where'd those keys go? Our calendar is an agreement of what time it is, right? And it's the focus of our society's attention. Now, we go by a calendar called the Gregorian. The Gregorian calendar. It was put into effect by Pope Gregory and the Catholic Church and all of the kings and empires that went along. As a matter of fact, the Gregorian calendar didn't go down very easily to indigenous societies. You might have studied a little history and found out how many people they had to kill to get the Gregorian calendar.
9 million.
What our Gregorian calendar has to do with is this. There. That's our sun. And around the sun, we have this. We have us on this. We've got some continents here, some water. There's Earth. And this Earth orbit takes some 365 days and 1/4. Takes 365 days for our planet to go around the sun. And we mark time by the motion of physical objects, by measuring physical cycles and the physical evidence of things moving through space. In fact, time down here equals physical motion. The absolute dead center of our civilization is paying attention to physical motion as its central. Its absolute focus. It's focused on physical. Any wonder we have a materialistic society where things have tended to become more important than people? You know, we used to have holidays, special holidays that were spiritual. Now, a really good Christmas is a lot of stuff sold to a lot of people. Not the indigenous or not the original meaning. What happened? What are we paying attention to? We're paying attention to, at the center of our consciousness, of our civilization, we're paying attention to physical only. And so there has been an erosion, a steady erosion of spiritual consciousness. We've been looking the other way, directed by our calendar. Maybe you didn't think that a calendar could be so important or so insidious. But the fact is, you know what dogma is? You know what the word dogma means? Anybody like the word dogma?
No.
Dogma means an unquestioned belief. Doesn't sound very healthy, does it? You know what the biggest dogma on earth is?
Yeah.
What day it is! Nobody ever even questions it. And if they do, that person's crazy. So, you, all of us, me, all of us, have been brainwashed. Welcome to the rinse cycle. You see, not all societies had calendars that were based on this orbit of the sun. Almost every indigenous calendar had a 360-day time period. You probably heard something about that. Heard archaeologists say, yeah, but they were so primitive they didn't understand. We're going to turn the tables tonight on that argument. The Maya have two calendars that run together, a system of calendars, not just one. They have the Tzolk'in. The Tzolk'in calendar is actually the subject of this piece of paper right here. The Tzolk'in calendar has a 260-day repeating time cycle. It goes 260 days and starts all over again. This was called the personal calendar of the Maya. And it's made up of 13 intentions on the part of creation and 20 aspects of creation. 13 times 20 is 260. Each day having a very specific intention and representing an aspect of creation. So every day has a special meaning. 260 different combinations. You were born on one of those days. You were born into an intention and with certain aspects. This is how the Maya calendar was personal. But people as a Maya celebrated every single day of their calendar for the purpose it was serving onto creation as a sacred event. Every single day. That's a little different than how we treat our calendar, isn't it? So how personal was this calendar? Your first name as a Maya was the name of the day that you were born. So I would be 12 son, Ian Lungold. That wouldn't be a nickname, that'd be my first name. Everybody that was born on that same day had the same name. It's not there's a lot of Bobs running around in there. Yeah. The other calendar the Maya used is called the Tun calendar. T-U-N, Tun. And this is a 360-day calendar. Like the Tibetan calendar, and the Hebrew calendar, and the Egyptian calendar, and the Maori calendar. 360 days. Well, this calendar was called the Divine Calendar by the Maya, and it was the source of their prophecies. You ever heard about the Mayan prophecies and how phenomenally accurate they were? Did you know that the Maya predicted the downfall of their own civilization 500 years before it happened? And then it came true. They knew why. Pretty wise guys, don't you think? To be able to prepare. Can you imagine Bush baby getting up and saying anything like that?
It might not be real.
Oh, maybe not. Okay, here we go. This is the Tun calendar, or the Tzolk'in calendar. It's 260 days. Here is, if I can do this. There's 360 days to this calendar. Now each day is a tooth like this, you know, it's like a gear. Each day has its own purpose. And around here there's 360 teeth, like this. Like that. So as this one turns, like this, it turns this one like that. This goes around and around and it makes this 360-day calendar turn. And we'll be talking more about this calendar in a little bit. I wanted you to see how this, graphically, how this works. Every 52 revolutions of this calendar, every 52 times it goes around, these two original teeth line back up. This calendar and this calendar match back every 52 revolutions. Now this is as an example of how important the calendar was to these Maya and how much the center of their civilization it was. Every 52 tunes, They put out every fire, every spark in their entire civilization. They banished all debts. And they started all over. Every 52 revolutions. It was a major deal. That'd be like, turning off all the electricity in our whole civilization. Because it was time to start over. That's a pretty big commitment, don't you think? These guys were into it. But what were they timing? This is something the archaeologists haven't been able to figure out. What was the fascination of these Indians in the jungle with astronomy and these huge cycles of time and calendars and, well, let's talk about it. About 40-some-odd years ago, archaeologists uncovered a big stone. I mean a big stone. It stands, well, probably as high as this thing right here. I don't know how far down on the ground it goes. It's about 7 feet wide, that thick, and it's all covered with glyphs. Glyphs are the Mayan picture writing. All the glyphs are dates. All the dates are by tunes, not by years. All the stuff they carved in stone is 360-day cycles, not 365-day cycles. Note, there are no planets, no satellites going around our solar system every 360 days. So their calendar was not measuring any physical motion, was it? There's no orbit or body going around every 260 days either. They had their attention on something else. And here's what it was. What the stone shows in Koba is that creation is actually done in 9 different levels. 9 levels of creation. Now I'm going to draw them out here. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This one, this down here, is showing that each one of these levels is equally subdivided into 13 sections. This is all carved in stone with these pictures. We're not going to go into the pictures so much, but we'll tell you what these time scales are about. Now, in these levels of creation, there are 7 days and 6 periods of night. Where have we heard this before? Genesis? 7 days to each level of creation. Actually, the Maya weren't the first people that Babylonians had it, Mesopotamians had it, this understanding of 7 lights and 6 darks to each period of creation. Now, each one of these things has an intention. The 1 through 13 of the Tzolk'in calendar match up to each one of these purposes. But I want to go through real quick and show you the different levels of this consciousness as explained. First, the timing by the Mayan calendar, and then the discoveries, scientific discoveries made by Karl Kalemann as to what happened in these periods. The first period is 16.4 billion, that's billion with the B, billion years ago. The Maya wrote in stone that the Big Bang happened 16.4 billion years ago. It's an exact tunes, but it's a portion, it's 16.4 of our understood years, okay? This cycle started with the Big Bang and is run forward through all these different stages or intentions of evolution, and got all the way over here to the 7th day. The 7th day is actually a period of 1.26 billion years long. We're still living in that last 1.26 billion years. Okay? Very important thing happened right here 1.26 billion years ago. The first live cell, the first individual cellular life appeared right there at that line. So this whole cycle is called the cellular cycle because it brought about cellular life. It was its product. The very next cycle, 840 million years long. And what happened way over here, 63.1 million years ago, is the first live births. There were mammals just a little bit before that, but there were platypuses coming out of eggs. So the first live births happened 63.1 million years ago. Coincidence? Oh, we're going to get better. Here we have a cycle that started 41 million years ago. And this is called the familiar or familial cycle. Now, this is called mammals, mammalian. The mammalian cycle, because it produced mammals. Up here, we came to the family. Now, consciousness has a certain capacity to understand or of awareness at each one of these levels. This first level is pretty much chemical. Action, reaction, gravitation, friction, interaction between elements is what was going on down here in this cycle all the way to the development of life. But here, life developed the consciousness of stimulus response. It's a natural, it's a protective mechanism, survival mechanism for all life forms, including mammals. Stimulus response. Here, though, consciousness made a huge breakthrough. It went to stimulus individual response. In order to have a family, you have to first recognize individual. A herd and a family are different. A herd, you're just one of the number. A family, you establish cooperation. The family was evolved over 41 million years up to the last 3.2 million, which is when we had Australopithecus, the most ancient ancestor of humankind. Here, 2 million years ago, we started another cycle. And this cycle, 2 million years ago, was the arrival of Homo habilis, our most direct ancestor. Came into being 2 million years ago. And we started what is the tribal consciousness. Now, tribal consciousness, we picked up a tool here, we dropped the tail, and picked up another tool called the mind. And we started making decisions. Not just stimulus response or stimulus individual response, but stimulus difference, similarities and differences. We started making decisions. You know, it was a good decision. We moved all the way over here to 160,000 years ago, and what we have is Homo sapiens. Showed up in this, right at the beginning of the 7th day of this cycle. Here, we went into So 102,000 years ago, we started the cultural cycle. Now, during the cultural cycle, we went from decisions to coming up with reasons. Why is there rain? Why is there water? Why is there fire? Why? This was the providence, at first, of shamans, the first cosmologists, that then became theosophists, and religious leaders, and priests, and you know the rest. Cultures are based on the reasons for survival. Down here, people were huddled together for survival. Here, people had reasons. People started developing style. They had their own reason for survival. 5,125 years ago or so, I'll go over here. Just 8,000 years ago, we got crops. The development of agriculture in the seventh day. Then, 5,125 years ago, or 3115 BC, we moved into what's called the national consciousness cycle. This, by the way, is the birthday of the first nation, Egypt. It was put together by King Minos in 3115 BC. He married the upper and the lower Nile cultures into the first nation. It developed all the way across these 13 divisions, right over here to 1617, which is when the modern nation, that is, with diplomats and treaties, and the way we do business between nations now, was established by a treaty signed just after this line, 1637. The first modern nation was formed, or a whole league of nations, actually. And this is called the national cycle. Here we started one. This is called the planetary cycle, and it is a 256-year-long cycle. It actually started in 1755 AD. Now, if you remember your European history classes in the 7th grade, or maybe the 12th grade, what happened right then was the Industrial Revolution. And we started with methods to produce more power for the individual. Power to manipulate raw materials. Power to manipulate the environment. Power to manipulate each other. Right here, from reasons, we went into this national. This national is about laws and punishments. If you look at the Hebrew Bible, you'll find out that Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden were tossed out right about here. And the consciousness of right and wrong, good and evil, was imposed. It was laid over our consciousness in this national cycle. During the planetary cycle, consciousness was aimed at one thing: power. Look at it. What has everybody in every government strived to do? Empower themselves. Well, back here in 1755, if you had a horse, you're okay. You could get there. If you had 2 or 3, hey, you had a business. If you had 25 horses, you were a rich person. You know, most of you have 150 or more horses sitting in your driveway. At a minimum, this has been the development of power. Way over here, 1992 was this line, 1992. And what happened from all of this was the development of www.com. When did it go up? When did people have access to the internet? 1992. We're on a schedule, folks. We could break this down, I'd love to, break this down into finer detail. We've just cut for time, okay? Here we go. We started a new cycle just a little while ago. In fact, we started January 5th, 1999. We started the galactic consciousness cycle. This cycle lasts for 12.8 years. And that's it. What this cycle is about, if you haven't noticed already, ethics. What is happening to that power train that has been running you guys all ragged? It's getting its ethics put in, ain't it? This is a movement and a development on the part of creation, period. We can all help, we can all participate, but we're going to watch ethics overcome power in our lifetimes. In the next... And there's nothing that they can do about it. Okay. Where are we in time? What?
Which calendar do you want?
No, I want the hour.
Oh, okay. I have no idea.
Time, each level. 20 to 8. Okay. Thank you. Then I am going to go through just a little bit of this chapter. I want you to see these intentions, okay, so we know kind of what's going on overall and specifically what's happening in our lives right now. Here we have, first day, we have a seed, okay? That's how they read number 1. During the first night, this seed is underground, but it starts to sprout. It germinates. Over here, this is the second day. And what happens is that sprout comes up out of the ground. Boink, boink, and it shows you polarity. It's a display of left and right, male, female, right, wrong, all that. Then, here during the second night, what happens is, you know, those first 2 little leaves that come out, they kind of like get all sick and die, you know. You seen that? The 2 little first poop that fall out. That's what happens during the second night. Is that there is sort of an impact with the reality of the situation. Then, in the third day, a plant develops more leaves and stems, you know? Gets going better. Here it starts to actually fork off the little leaves and things. Now, you've got the truth of a viable plant running. The truth starts to be established. Boy, are we moving toward the truth. Whether you like it or not. Here in the night times, the days are always kind of a bright idea, you know, a dawning. And then during the night is a time for applying what you now know. So we went through this display of polarity during 2001, and now we're going through this conflict of polarity in 2002. Here in 2003, we're going to be getting the truth. The truth. Unmitigated. Ethics going in. And this right here, this last cycle, is called the universal cycle. And this cycle starts on February 10th, 2011. This whole thing, we're living inside this seventh day, that seventh day, this one, this one, this one, this one, that. These are all foundations on which our current consciousness resides. Our current consciousness is a wafer of all this kinds of consciousness. Got it? Where we're going is into some place very special. And the whole thing comes to a screeching halt October 28, 2011. That's when all these cycles, including that one, stop, according to the Mayan calendar. What we got is, you probably noticed, let me go back just a moment. You probably noticed that there's a descending timeline here. Excuse me. Come on over. You probably noticed that there's a descending timeline. Here we got 16.4 billion years, and out here we got 2 million years, all that, right? 102,000 years. What you're actually seeing, it looks like time is speeding up, doesn't it? Where did all my afternoon go? Where was last week? You know, time seems to be speeding up. That's not really true. Time is going the same speed. Creation is speeding up. Creation is presenting more and more and more of itself, more and more data, more and more knowledge, more and more substance in every moment than ever before. This is actually very, very good news, but we have one hurdle to get over. 2 million years ago, we picked up a tool called the mind. And this thing is going to cause us some problems.
Already has.
Yeah. Okay, the mind. What is the mind? The mind is a tool. It's a tool, like a paintbrush or a hammer. A carpenter doesn't think himself to be the hammer, does he? But there are a lot of people that think themselves to be their mind. Get over it. A mind is a tool to tell the similarities and differences between things and make decisions concerning survival. It does that with individual pictures. Did you know your mind has a speed limit?
Yes.
Psychologists don't talk about this very much, or a psychiatrist, because the speed limit has to do with a thing called subliminal advertising. Of course, you would never have experienced that. Subliminal advertising works by throwing one single frame into a series of pictures that you're taking constantly. It's called the flicker frequency. The flicker frequency is actually 33 pictures. This is the fastest anybody's found. It's 33 frames per second. That's as fast as your mind can tell the similarity or difference between something. You know what a strobe looks like. And it flashes and flashes. As long as it's faster than, say, 24 frames per second, you can see one flash from another. It kind of looks like it's flickering. But once it gets faster than that, you can't tell one flash from the other. That's the speed limit of your mind. You can only have 33 thoughts in 1 second. Now, a while ago, creation was moving at a big change every 400 years. Everybody lived the same way, drove the same car, used the same kind of pottery with the same designs. There was no other clothing styles. Everybody was doing the same thing. So you had lots of time to have thoughts about what was coming. But now, creation is speeded up. There's more and more data pouring in. If you notice, And your mind is not as able to do its job as it used to be. It doesn't have time to sit and these things through and come up with the best solutions. Your mind is a self-protective mechanism, and it has an override. That it starts telling the body things. When it can't do its job, it sends a signal. The first level of signal is this. Stress. This is your walk away response. You're supposed to get up and leave. Because there are things you're not certain about here. That's dangerous. Now, we've all become accustomed to stress. In fact, it's now a character judgment on you. How much stress can you handle? But it's also 80% of everything that goes in your body, according to the AMA, starts with stress. And there's a worldwide epidemic of it. Maybe we're getting a little clue as to what's coming, what's going on here. There's more and more creation in every moment. More and more for you to know. And the mind is not capable. It's not built for speed, not the speed we're talking. If you make a phone call, you're tapped into computers that are making 1 billion decisions per second. Your mind's doing 33. It used to be that a pioneer built everything in his house, except maybe the pump, you know? Everything else, chairs, tables, floor, everything was built by him. Okay, go ahead, build a light bulb. You're dependent on a lot of stuff that you don't know exactly about. That's a source of stress. Okay? To the mind. To the mind. Now, stress is not the last word in this. What happens if you don't handle the stress is the mind starts sending out another signal. In this case, basically what the mind does is gives your body a shot of adrenaline and checks out. There is no more rationale. It's just, okay, body, you get us out of here. And you either fight or run away. This is Columbine High School. This is road rage. This is desk rage. This is terrorism. But sometimes a person can run away or is not strong enough to fight his way out, right? What happens then? The last ditch ever. Unconsciousness. What do you do if a bear attacks you? You lay there and play dead. Maybe he'll just eat your arm. It's a survival mechanism. But it happens to be the mother of all addictions. All addictions, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be alcohol, drugs, it could be sitcoms. It's your own personal decision of how to stay unconscious. It's your choice. Addictions are all a product of the desire to remain unconscious. So you don't have to fight and you don't experience the stress. Also happens to be the source of all suicides. Now this is kind of the bad news about the mind, you know? And that's the way that the mind necessarily is going to go because it's not built for speed. It'd be like taking a donkey for a run 75 miles an hour behind the family station wagon. Okay, so since it's fairly obvious that we're all going to be going completely out of our minds, what is just outside your mind? What's just outside is your intuition. Now, going out of your mind has sort of gotten a bad rap from psychiatrists, although they're selling a lot of pills, aren't they? But what is just outside of your own mind is your intuition. It's your own personal knowing. It's the source of your personal power. And it was also made a death sentence during the Spanish Inquisition. If you knew anything without a plausible physical explanation of how you came to know about it, you were a witch, burned, dragged, drowned, stabbed. It went out of style. But you know, we pay some people a lot of money to play games, professional sports, millions of dollars a year. What do we pay them for? Because we admire those guys. And there's one thing that we admire about them, and that is, under complete, drastic stress levels, instead of going into the fight or flight syndrome, they go into a thing called the zone. And they go ahead and make the spectacular play. You heard about that?
Yeah.
The zone? The zone is their experience of intuition. They're just doing what they know. And they are not thinking about it. Nike got it right. Just do it. You don't have time to think about it. And it's going to get more drastic as we go forward with this acceleration. Here we have the flow of creation. Like this. We've got creation flowing along here. And have you ever noticed intuitive moments seem to be timeless? Like, it's not until later you go, well, where'd all the time go? Right then, it seemed like time wasn't going by. Happens to these athletes, too. In fact, things look like they slow down. Have you ever heard them talk about that? Their consciousness is oriented, at that moment, it's oriented to the flow of creation. Still oriented by time and place, but for those moments, they are moving with creation, so time isn't going by. Okay? They're actually more or less riding this flow, moment by moment by moment by moment by moment by moment. Now, doing this, I think everybody would is beneficial. Didn't it feel real natural and powerful to you when you were in your intuition? Didn't it?
Yes.
Okay. You're still with me. Yes, it is very powerful and very important. We have these two orientations for our consciousness in our society. It's what is recognized, time and place. The Maya had some extra help. They had a calendar which determined for them at the day of their birth what their personal intent was. Have you ever been someplace that you didn't really want to be? You didn't intend to be at school or at work or in the middle of an argument? Did you feel very centered in those situations? No. But when you intended to be where you were, doing what you were, didn't you feel centered? Good. This Mayan calendar provides that orientation. By the day that you were born, you would find your personal intention for this lifetime. Then, the Tune calendar, the 360-day calendar, the divine calendar, would explain your participation in all of creation. So the Maya had two other orientations: their own personal intent and their personal participation in a divine plan. What divine plan? In our society, there isn't one. It's all been just a happy little. So this is called the 8 division sky place, and it's actually the description of heaven to the Maya in their legend. The 8 division sky place is heaven. There have been moments in your life when time, place, personal intent, and your knowledge of your participation in the divine plan was happening. And it felt great, didn't it? Heavenly. There you go. This is actually the purpose of the Mayan calendar. It was never, ever, ever to keep track of time the way we look at it. It was always to orient your consciousness to the flow of creation. A whole different way of looking at this. I wish I had to go into details, but I'm really running long. What I wanted to do real quick, while it holds together, I'll hold on to it, there we go. I wanted to go through some of what we're actually, why are we experiencing what we are right now? Here we have a moment in the past. In the past, there were 3 things that were happening, let's say. It was going slower, so there was only 3 things that could happen at one time. One that was good for you, one that was bad for you, one that kind of down the middle. And it's your job to pick from the options of what's in your life, pick the best path to get you to a goal. So let's say you took this one to get there. Now, what you need to do to get to a goal is you need to persist. That's the most important part. Is persistence until you get there. Even if you get lost, you persist and eventually you'll get there. Here we are in the present. More is happening in the present than used to happen in the past. This is really good news because it makes for more options. Remember in the past you'd go in and you'd order a cup of coffee? Do you want that with cream or sugar? You get my point? Starbucks. Here we are. Starbucks right here. You used to go to the movie. You used to figure out which movie house you want to go to, right? Now you figure out which multiplex, 24 multiplex you're going to go to, and then stand there and look at all the options of what am I going to pay attention to tonight. You have more options as to what enters your viewpoint. And this is going to become not just drastic, but radically extreme. More and more, you will be choosing exactly what your experience will be as this continues to accelerate. What you pay attention to, you become conscious of. And it's going to become quite literal. Look at how it's changed already. Okay, here we are in the future. Now the future is going to have more and more and more and more options open for you. Has anybody noticed that we are swimming in a sea of miracles?
Yeah.
Have you?
Yes.
Just from, let's say, 200 years ago. Oh, no, that's too long. 120 years ago. Before there were cars and telephones, let alone radios, televisions, computers. Come on. You guys are all wizards. You should still be hitching the team to get here tonight. It took people a long time to travel. You almost teleported. Almost, huh? Well, you know, there are miracles. The lights in this room are miracles. Medical miracles. How many people in this room are alive because of a medical development that would have killed your grandfather? There you go. Okay. And some of you don't even know. There are more and more miracles happening all the time. And it's going to continue. Just one of the miracles that has occurred recently is doctors have discovered the fuel of your immune system. Imagine that. I mean, well, imagine this. You take antibiotics, right?
No.
Good. Well, let's talk about those guys. People are educated to take antibiotics, which are anti-life compounds. And what we're learning now is that as you take antibiotics, the viruses get stronger, sort of like opening a gym for your viruses. We ain't going to win the war this way, folks, taking stronger and stronger anti-life compounds to get well. So this is a tremendous breakthrough. I mean, look, your immune system is the smartest thing in your body. It does exactly what your body needs in every circumstance. True, your immune system is under heavy stress from attack all over. But first and foremost, recognize that it has been evolved over the last 16.4 billion years, and you are the direct recipient of all that evolution. The fact that it works best of all is proven by the fact that we're still sitting here after creation threw everything it could at us. It was your immune system that carried us to this point. So why not rely on the immune system to handle future threats? Now we have a way to enhance your immune system, to directly feed it to do its job. As a matter of fact, one of the next speakers that's going to be up, Jim Britt, is going to have time to talk about how this actually came about and how it's benefiting people. It's one of the miracles that we're going to need to avail ourselves of. You need all the help you can get. Here, what's going to happen? In this case, here's your goal again, right here. Goal, whoop, like that. And the persistence is getting shorter and shorter. Have you noticed that already? People, friends of yours walking up and go, you know, I was just talking about getting a new job last week and I got fired. People are seeing what they've been looking for show up a lot faster than ever before. That's because there's more and more options, more and more possibilities in every moment. It's going to be more extreme in the future. You know that we're already teleportation. There are laboratories all over the world doing teleportation. So during the future, driving to the store, you wouldn't do it. You just have it delivered immediately. That's part of the future. That means a lot of changes. If you got anybody that works in the distribution industry or transportation industry. I mean, we're looking at a lot of drastic changes in our near future. Here is October 28th, 2011, the end of the Mayan calendar. Now, probably curious as to what happens at the end of the Mayan calendar. Absolutely everything, all at the same time. Creation is speeding up and creating more and more of itself in every moment. Eventually, because it's a geometric progression, it goes, a quantum curve which goes like this. A geometric curve is like that. A quantum curve is woo! And that's the ride we're on. Eventually, up here, what happens is all of creation presents itself in one moment. Then there is no barrier of space and time. Without those considerations, there's no need for a calendar. End of Mayan calendar. Not the end of consciousness or end of life on Earth. In fact, it's a whole new game. Well, I want to thank you very much. I really enjoy doing this, you understand? You guys are all going to now digest this information. You're going to be putting it up next to your own experience and what you see happening. And what really, we share a responsibility to, first of all, use this information in your own life to benefit yourselves. To take notice that this is all a process and a pattern. It is predictable. Peace of mind comes when you're centered, doesn't it? Well, where does centeredness come from? Certainty. That's where, when you're certain of something, you're centered, right? Where does certainty come from? The recognition of patterns. When you recognize the pattern, then you're certain and can be centered and achieve peace of mind. In every new thing you've tried to learn, you've run that course. It's the same for the whole game. I would advise that you find out as much detail about what we flew through today as possible, so that you can have that certainty, so that you can recognize these patterns, including the next few years, because we're going to go through a pretty wild ride, all for the benefit of everyone, but for pretty drastic changes. Okay? Thank you very much.